is the bee of my mind, on the lotus feet of my divine mother. Eros is the bee of my mind, on the blue lotus.
The voice of God calls us to awaken him. How will he find us when he comes?
Awake and ready.
And when he asks us to dedicate ourselves ever more perfectly to him, how will he find us?
Awake and ready.
Keeping your focus inward and upward to the point between the eyebrows, listen to these words from Swami Ananda on our affirmation for this week. Immortality. You are not your body. You are not your thoughts, your desires, your changing personality. Your body has a certain age, but you yourself have no age. Your body may tire or become unwell, but you yourself, the fatigueless soul, cannot tire, can never know disease. Tell yourself always, I am a child of eternity. Don't be identified with your outward form, nor with change, but live in timelessness. It is our identity with change that creates the illusion of passing time. Feel that through all outward changes, you, the immortal soul, remain the same. Death itself will be but one more change. Be not identified with it. Then, when death comes, you shall rise in eternal freedom. Now let's affirm together first, out loud in a strong voice. I am a child of eternity.
I am a child of eternity.
I am ageless.
I am ageless.
I am deathless.
I am deathless.
I am the changeless spirit.
I am the changeless spirit.
At the heart of all mutation.
At the heart of all mutation.
And pray silently with me. Wherever my body travels outwardly, let me feel thy changeless presence within. Wherever my thoughts take me, let them return always, like prodigal children, to find repose in thee. Om. Peace. Amen.
Welcome, everyone. Wonderful to see some new friends and old friends and friends joining us online. I'm Narayana. This is Dharma Devi. And it's our joy to share with you some Sunday inspirational satsangs. And Michael's going to do the Rays of the One Light reading.
This is week 49. What is it to fare spiritually? Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. The first passage is from the Gospel of St. Matthew, chapter 25. Jesus tells us the parable of the 10 virgins, 5 of them wise and 5 foolish. They await their bridegroom, the Christ consciousness. The wise virgins keep their oil in their lamps, symbolic of their devotion, lit through the night. The foolish virgins place no oil in their lamps. These foolish ones are like the average devotee, going through the motions of outer ritual, but keeping no fire of love burning in the heart. When the bridegroom's coming is announced, the foolish virgins realize their mistake and hasten out to purchase oil. During their absence, the Christ consciousness comes and embraces those who have been awaiting him with devotion. The foolish ones, by their lackluster devotion, are not accepted by him. Watch, therefore, Jesus told his listeners, for you know neither the day nor the hour wherein the Son of Man cometh. In our biography of a yogi, Paramahansa Ananda describes the foolish virgin consciousness he encountered in the Mahamandal hermitage he stayed in as a young man in Benares. I was pleased, he wrote, that my new home possessed an attic where I managed to spend the dawn and morning hours. The ashram members, knowing little of my meditation practices, thought I should employ my whole time in organizational duties. They gave me praise for my afternoon work in their office. Don't try to catch God so soon. This ridicule accompanied one of my early departures toward the attic. Later, during meditation, I felt lifted as though bodily to a sphere uncircumscribed. Thy master cometh today. A divine womanly voice came from everywhere and nowhere. This supernal experience was pierced by a shout from a definite locale. A young priest nicknamed Habu was calling me from the downstairs kitchen. Mukunda, enough of meditation, you are needed for an errand. The Divine Mother's words were not spoken for the benefit of that priest, the foolish virgin, but for Mukunda, the wise virgin. For this was the day his guru, Sri Yukteswar, came to him. Grieve not, friends, if you feel that you have been foolish. No error is forever. Someday, if you keep your lamp lit now, your opportunity will come. In the Bhagavad Gita, the 6th chapter, Krishna promises every devotee, Arjuna, none who works for self-redemption will ever meet an evil destiny. Spiritual failure, though a deep disappointment, is always temporary. Eternal hellfire is but a projection of vindictiveness in the human mind. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind.
Morning, everyone. My name is Paul. Okay, this is a reading from Whispers from Eternity from Paramhansa Yogananda. It's edited by his direct disciple, Swami Kriyananda. And this passage is emerging from the cocoon of ignorance. I have heard thy voice, Divine Mother, saying, you have long remained enclosed in the cocoon of wrong human habits. Come out ere the silk man, death, come to destroy you. Cut away the delusive, comfort-inducing silken cords of past habits which hold you falsely secure in their chamber of death. Come out, cease being a blind human worm, sleeping and dreaming human weakness. Come out of your ages-old cocoon of delusion. Spread wings of eternal power and splendor through spiritualizing your ambitions. Come out, beat a butterfly of eternity. Let your wings display their innate divine beauty. Let them spread out all over space, entertained by and entertaining everything, everywhere. On wings of beauty, fly through the skies of infinity, attracting all toward everything that is most beautiful. Sun and stardust, glimmering on your wings, banish gloom from every heart as you soar past on your joyous way to your home in me, O butterfly of eternity.
The topic today is, what is it to fail spiritually? One of the first things I thought was, here's a topic that I'm proficient in for one of the first times. Actually, I had a dream recently. I told many of you, and I shared about this. I had a dream with Swami Kriyananda a couple months ago. And in the dream, we were sitting at a table, and he just turned to me and said, so, you failed English? And like in a questioning way. But he was smiling, and he was sweet, and Swami's way. And I said, no, actually, sir, I majored in English. And then we just both laughed. You know, it was just this joyous, united laughter in the dream. And then, you know, a few weeks later, which was a couple Sundays ago, I was trying to say magnanimous. And I actually said magnanimous. So I made up a word, which I want to submit to Webster because I think it's a good one. It's a combination of magnanimous and harmonious. It's talking about the heart. You know, but that really, Dharma Devi and I were in Georgia last weekend visiting her family, and her mother goes to a Catholic church. We were both raised Roman Catholic, so it's a familiar, you know, custom, and we went to church. It was a beautiful experience. But I was struck. One of the stained glass windows was the picture of Jesus Christ and the Sacred Heart. And if you're not familiar with this image, you know, it's Christ bearing his heart, and it's a fire. It's flaming, and it has a crown of thorns. so deeply inspiring to think that's really the essence of our spiritual journey, is what is in our heart. And Christ and the Masters reflect the purity of God, of the Christ consciousness. And our part in this whole play is opening ourselves. That's why the Bible, that quote that Yogananda talked about, to all those who received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of God. Receptivity on the spiritual path, it's not something that we can manufacture. It doesn't happen through intelligence. Yes, we have to use our intelligence, of course, rightly. But if we rely solely on our intelligence, then we miss the point. And of course, this was brought to a terrifying example for us in the story of Judas with Christ. And that story, you recall in the Bible, where Mary Magdalene brought the costly oil, and she came to bathe Christ's feet with her hair, with that oil. And it said that the whole room permeated with the perfume of that fragrance. And that oil, of course, represented her devotion and her love for her guru. And Judas's response to this was, why wasn't this oil sold and the money taken and sold to the poor? Given to the poor. Sorry. I guess you can't sell anything to the poor because they don't have anything. You understand what I mean? So, but it was that intellectual pride which seeped into Judas's mind, which really he was implying in that moment that he was the wiser of the two, that he was wiser than his own spiritual teacher, his guru. And so for us, this is one of the, in that whole scene, it's all of our, like the Mahabharata, all these different characters are the reflection of our own inner life. The Christ consciousness is within us. There is the devotional attitude and ardor and purity of heart of Mary. And there's also, of course, the carping spirit of Judas. And we have to, moment by moment, bare our heart, open up our heart, and purify our heart so it becomes like Christ, like the Sacred Heart. And what do we have to purify of? Like Sri Yukteswar talked about, the meannesses of the heart. And one of them that he mentioned is condemnation. Judas condemning. But who's really condemning who? God loves you eternally, perfectly. So when we make a mistake and we beat ourselves up, and that's why Yogananda said, never accept that you're a sinner. Remember, he was in that church and the woman said, you're all sinners, get down on your knees. And everyone got down, and he refused to get down on his knees because he saw himself as a child of God. And it's important for us that purity of our heart comes through, well, first we have to start with believing. Believing in not ourself, but believing in our higher self. Believing that we're a child of God. Believing in that God will provide for us whatever we need. But of course, belief isn't enough. We then have to have the willingness to churn that belief, to test that belief. Right? This is where the science and art of yoga comes in. That we can then try our belief. If I am a child of God, then what are the implications of that? That he loves me eternally. Then I have to open myself and then begin to receive that truth on a deeper level. And that's where attunement with the Guru comes into play. And it's a subtlety that we can talk about, we can sing about it, we can read about it, but it doesn't actually happen until we try and run that experiment for ourselves, which is opening ourselves in meditation to the Christ. Now, the Christ here we're talking about as the infinite Christ consciousness. It's that aspect of God that's within us always. So after we open ourselves through receptivity, that's when, see, this is why we need a pure heart. Remember, the angels came to Mary, and she received the Immaculate Conception of the Christ within her. And it's the same for us, that the Christ consciousness, that purity of spirit, cannot come to us until we have cleansed our heart in that same manner. The Bhagavad Gita talks about, what can happen to us and how we need to be on guard. When Krishna says to Arjuna that, watch, as you focus on sense objects, then you develop attraction, right? And from attraction springs desire. And when a desire is not fulfilled, then that desire flames into anger. And then when our anger comes out, then we get infatuated with that object of desire, so much so that our discriminative faculty is gone. And when our discrimination is gone, then it's the annihilation of our spiritual life. This is the way that Krishna puts it in the Bhagavad Gita. And it's a sobering stanza to read. But Sri Yukteswar gave a real simple example of that in autobiography. You remember Yogananda came to him and said, Tell me some story of your life, Guruji, of your early life. I long to hear it. And he said, when I was a young boy, our neighbors had a dog. And it was an ugly dog. And my mother and parents said, why do you want this ugly dog? He said, I want that dog. And I became so infatuated with this one dog that that's all I could keep my mind on. And Sri Yukteswar said that the moral is that attachment is blinding. It creates this halo of attractiveness around the object of desire. So our way out of that attachment is to create the desire and the attachment for God, Christ, and the Masters, to see that picture of the Sacred Heart and say, that's what I want. I want to be a saint. I want to be so immersed in the beatitude, in the blessedness of these great ones, that the veil, the separation is gone. And we can't do that on our own. That, remember, to all those who received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of God. That receptivity is something, it's that subtle transference of magnetism. That story that Yogananda often told, that Swamiji often told as well, the man who was tormented by the demon, and he read in the scriptures that if he said a mantra on a powder and he cast it on the demon, that it would be cast out. And the demon said, I've already gotten into your powder before you could utter your mantra. And Yogananda would share this story as an illustration that we cannot get out of the ego on our own. So do you need a guru? No, you don't need a guru. But when you come to that point of sincerity and depth of devotion that you want God, that you want the highest, then you need someone who can transfer, who can, like a transformer here in the city, that you can plug into the wall and receive that electricity of spirit at a level which you're ready to receive. Remember Dr. Lewis cornered Master, will you give me samadhi, Master? If I gave it to you, Doctor, could you handle it? No, sir. We have to be ready. And we have to be realistic. What are we ready to receive? What are we ready to receive will depend upon what are we ready to let go of. So start. There's no failure take the page out of Swami Kriyananda's book. If you make a mistake, rather than send yourself to hell in your own mind, I haven't yet succeeded. Make it an affirmation of future success. I haven't yet succeeded. That you're honest with yourself, and at the same time that you're not using it as an excuse, because that's Satan's greatest play. It's discouragement. You're a sinner. And then it becomes an excuse for more. So no, that's not what we want. What we want is to believe, and more than believe, to receive. And then from that receptivity, then we can conceive of the Christ right within us. So never lose hope. And as Yogananda wrote to, one of his disciples, he wrote this beautiful letter, which I want to close with, where he said to them, never lose courage. Because that is, again, the French word cœur, of the heart. It comes back to that sacred heart of cleansing our heart. And the spiritual path, it's like a razor's edge. Both the inferiority complex and superiority. We have to watch out for intellectual pride, and at the same time we can't be beating ourselves up that we're no good and this, that, and the other thing. It's completely forgetting ourselves. And the way that happens is by simple daily meditation, service, and then loving God, and then loving God in others. We were coming off the airplane last week, and this woman who didn't know where the baggage claim was, she went up to Dharma Devi. She couldn't speak fluent English, and she said, baggage, claim, how do I get there? And Dharma Devi was just so sweet, so kind in that moment. She showed her where the baggage claim was. There's a miracle that happens when you're an instrument for God's kindness. And that miracle is your heart becomes pure. It roots out all of that meanness so that all that's left, as Yogananda said, when this I shall die, then shall I know who am I. And we'll know by the purity of our heart, by the feeling of joy that it brings, and by simply, when our attitude comes back to simplicity, and just for having the opportunity to meditate, the opportunity to be of service. And then we find that, as Yogananda said, a saint is a sinner who never gave up. So I want to leave you with his words on never losing courage. You must never lose courage. Divine Mother sent me to pilot you out of the clouds of your mind. Everybody's difficulty is different, and he or she has to win that test of karma. Overcome all by constant inward calling on God, and utmost devotion in words, thought, action, and obedience to Guru. Your troubles I do not mind. I will never give up my job about you. It is better to conquer one evil and not live with it forever. Never for a moment identify yourself with momentary flashes of error. Have no fear, even though I am gone from your visible eyes. You will never be alone. I may not scold you then, but I shall ever be with you, and through Divine Mother guard you from all harm, and will constantly whisper to you guidance through your loving self. So do not be discouraged and tired, but ever be interested in working for Divine Mother, no matter if war, sickness, death dances around you. Be cut to pieces, but never give up. Be like the divine leech, suck at the blood of wisdom, even though torn to bits. A smooth life is not a victorious life. and I will give you lots of my good karma, so you will get through. I will not only ever forgive you, but ever lift you up, no matter how many times you fall. Keep unceasingly trying to conquer. Not only will I invisibly help you to visibly through many here. I am not building a mansion for you or giving you riches which will perish, but I am making an imperishable home with all riches in my divine mother's mansion.